School was tough. Every day, the same group of kids would shove me around. They'd call me names and trip me in the hallway. I felt small, insignificant. I just wanted to disappear. One day, after a particularly bad encounter, I ran. I ran until I reached the woods behind the school. I collapsed under a large oak tree, tears streaming down my face. I wished things were different. I wished something would happen, something that would make everyone leave me alone. Little did I know my wish was about to come true. The air grew cold. I shivered, clutching my arms around myself. A strange stillness fell over the woods. Even the birds seemed to have gone silent. Then I heard it, a soft whisper, like the wind rustling through leaves. But there was no wind. It seemed to be coming from behind the tree. Curiosity outweighed my fear. I slowly stood up and peeked around the trunk of the oak. Standing there, shrouded in shadow, was a tall figure in a long, dark cloak. I couldn't make out the figure's face, hidden as it was by the deep hood of the cloak, but I could sense its eyes on me, watching me intently. Fear coiled in my stomach, but I couldn't move. I was frozen to the spot. "You called!" the figure whispered, its voice raspy and low. I wanted to answer, but no words came out. The figure extended a gloved hand towards me. "Come with me," it beckoned. "I can help you." My body moved before my mind could object. I reached out and took the figure's hand. It was surprisingly cold, like touching ice. A jolt went up my arm, and suddenly I felt weightless. We were floating. I looked down and saw the ground shrinking beneath us. The trees looked like tiny toys from this height. Fear turned to exhilaration. I had never felt so free. The figure remained silent, its gaze fixed on some distant point in the sky. We flew for what felt like hours, soaring above the clouds, the wind whipping through my hair. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the flight ended. We were descending rapidly, the ground rushing up to meet us. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing for impact. I landed with a soft thud, the carpet cushioning my fall. I opened my eyes and found myself lying on the floor of my bedroom, the familiar surroundings slowly coming into focus. The room was dark, illuminated only by the faint glow of the streetlights outside my window, casting long shadows on the walls. Had it all been a dream? The events that had transpired felt so real, yet here I was, back in my room. I sat up and looked around, my heart still pounding in my chest. The adrenaline from whatever had happened still coursed through my veins. My window was wide open, the curtains billowing gently in the breeze, as if they were waving at me, welcoming me back. I could have sworn I closed it before I left for school. The memory was vivid, the latch clicking shut in my mind. I got to my feet and walked over to the window, peering out into the night. The street was deserted, eerily quiet. There was no sign of the mysterious figure or any indication of how I got back home. The silence was almost deafening, broken only by the distant hum of the city. I closed the window and locked it, making sure it was secure this time. The cool night air had left a chill in the room. Sitting on the edge of my bed, I tried to piece together the fragments of my memory. What had happened? How did I end up back here? The clock on the wall showed it was late, much later than I had expected. Time seemed to have slipped away. I picked up my phone, hoping for some clue, a message. Anything that could explain the missing hours, but there was nothing. Lying back on my bed, I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing with questions. The night's events were a blur, a puzzle with missing pieces. I closed my eyes, trying to calm my thoughts. Maybe sleep would bring clarity, or at least some rest from the confusion. As the room faded to black, I hoped that the morning light would bring answers, or at least a sense of normalcy. For now, all I could do was sleep and wait for the dawn. I closed the window and crawled back into bed, pulling the covers up tight. The night was unusually quiet, the kind of silence that makes you hyper-aware of every little sound. I tried to find comfort in the familiar warmth of my bed, but it felt different tonight. Almost foreign. I tried to convince myself it was just a vivid dream, but deep down I knew something wasn't right. My mind raced, replaying the events of the evening over and over. The shadows seemed to dance on the walls, and every flicker of light made my heart race. The encounter felt too real, too tangible. It was as if the dream had left a residue, a lingering sense of dread that clung to me like a second skin. My hands gripped the edge of the bed tightly, seeking some form of grounding in the midst of my turmoil. I tossed and turned, unable to shake the feeling of unease that had settled over me. My body was restless, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and fears. The more I tried to calm myself, the more agitated I became. Sleep was a distant hope, slipping further away with each passing minute. The silence in the house was unnerving. It was the kind of silence that felt heavy, almost oppressive. Every corner of the room seemed to hold a secret, every shadow a hidden threat. I strained my ears, listening for any sign of normalcy, but there was none. Every creak and groan of the old house seemed amplified in the stillness. Then I heard it. A sound that didn't belong, a noise that sent a shiver down my spine. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but it grew louder, more insistent. A faint scratching sound coming from the other side of my bedroom door. My blood ran cold. The sound was deliberate, methodical, like something or someone was trying to get in. I felt a chill run through my body, freezing me in place. I held my breath, listening intently. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in the silence. The scratching continued, slow and deliberate, like claws raking against the wood. I could almost picture the source of the noise, a dark figure lurking just beyond the door. The scratching continued, slow and deliberate, like claws raking against the wood. I felt a sense of impending doom, a certainty that whatever was on the other side of that door was not friendly. My mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. I knew I had to do something, but fear held me captive, paralyzing me in my bed. Suddenly, the shrill ringing of the burglar alarm pierced through the house. I jumped out of bed, my heart racing. The scratching at the door stopped abruptly. I crept towards the door, my hand trembling as I reached for the doorknob. I took a deep breath and threw open the door, ready to confront whatever awaited me on the other side. The hallway was empty. I flicked on the light switch, but the bulb blew, plunging the hallway back into darkness. Panic welled up inside me. I was trapped. I stumbled back, my hand searching for the wall to steady myself. That's when I saw it. Standing at the far end of the hallway, silhouetted against the moonlight streaming in from the window, was the figure. Its eyes glowed an eerie red in the darkness, piercing through me like lasers. It didn't move, it just stood there, its presence radiating an overwhelming sense of dread. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. I was paralyzed with terror. The figure took a step towards me, then another, its heavy footsteps echoing ominously in the silent house. Then, as quickly as it had appeared, the figure vanished. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. The hallway was empty again, except for me and the lingering sense of fear that clung to me like a shroud. I stood there for a moment, frozen in place, my mind struggling to process what I had just witnessed. The burglar alarm continued to blare, the sound piercing through the silence. I stumbled back into my room and slammed the door shut, fumbling for the lock. I slid the deadbolt into place, my chest heaving. I was safe for now. The police arrived soon after, sirens wailing, lights flashing. The neighborhood was suddenly alive with the commotion, the once quiet night now filled with the sounds of urgency and concern. They searched the house from top to bottom, meticulously combing through every room, every corner. They checked windows, doors, and even the attic, but found no sign of forced entry, no explanation for the triggered alarm. It was as if the house itself had cried wolf. They chalked it up to a faulty system, a common occurrence in old houses like mine. The officers assured me it was nothing to worry about, just a technical glitch, but I knew better. I had felt a presence, something that couldn't be explained away by a malfunctioning alarm. I knew what I'd seen, or did I? Doubt began to creep in, gnawing at the edges of my certainty. Had my mind played tricks on me, or was there something more sinister at play? As time went on, the lines between reality and nightmare blurred. My dreams became more vivid, more real, and my waking hours were haunted by shadows and whispers. I couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Had it all been real, or just a figment of my imagination, a desperate attempt to escape the harsh realities of my life? I found myself questioning everything, my mind a labyrinth of doubt and fear. To this day, I still don't have the answer. The memory of that night lingers, a ghost that refuses to be laid to rest. It haunts my thoughts, a puzzle with pieces that don't quite fit. But one thing is for sure, that night changed me forever. It shattered my sense of security, my belief in the solidity of the world around me. I became a different person, more cautious, more aware of the thin veil that separates the known from the unknown. It made me question everything I thought I knew about the world, about the line between the real and the unreal. I delved into books, seeking answers, trying to understand the nature of reality and the power of the mind. But the more I learned, the more elusive the truth became. And sometimes late at night, when the wind howls outside my window, I can't help but wonder if the figure is out there, somewhere watching, waiting. The darkness holds secrets, and I am left to ponder the mysteries that lie just beyond the edge of perception. I started keeping a journal, documenting my thoughts and experiences, hoping to find some clarity. Each entry a step towards understanding, a way to piece together the fragments of that night, but the answers remain elusive, slipping through my fingers like sand. I look back at old photographs, trying to find a clue, a hint of what might have been. The faces in the pictures seem to hold secrets, their eyes knowing more than they let on. But the past is a closed book, its pages sealed by time. Sometimes I take long walks through the forest, the silence broken only by the rustle of leaves and the distant call of birds. The woods are a place of mystery, where shadows dance and the air is thick with the unknown. It is here that I feel closest to the truth, yet it remains just out of reach. Standing at the edge of a cliff, looking out over the vast landscape, I am reminded of how small we are in the grand scheme of things. The world is full of wonders and terrors, and we are but tiny specks in the face of its immensity. The line between reality and imagination is thin, and sometimes it is all too easy to cross. As I close my journal and look out the window, I am left with more questions than answers. The night that changed me is a part of who I am now, a reminder that the world is not always as it seems. And so I continue to search, to wonder, to question. For in the end, it is the journey, not the destination, that defines us.